Welcome to the Talking Gearheads. I want you to welcome today our guest, William Wightman of the Mobile Difference. William, thanks for coming on board.
Franks, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Talk to me about the Mobile Difference.
The Mobile Difference. We're a mobile tire shop. Our pitch line is we bring the tire shop to you. The concept of mobile tires started with probably 18-wheelers in the most part. You know, those guys were running the streets. What we specialize in is we have a Corgi touchless tire changer and really accurate laser balancer, and we guarantee no rim damage. So that opens up a huge window for exotic cars, custom wheels, very large wheels, and we sell tires. So we use the same warehouses that all of your brick and mortar major brands use also. So we're very competitive pricing, and it's good things to come because mobile tires, no one likes sitting in a waiting room.
No. Well, I think the business model is brilliant, but the mobile industry is under a unique set of cost pressures these days.
It is. Fuel.
How do you deal with that?
So, I would say 90% of what we do is custom installs. So there's a lot of pre-planning, logistics, scheduling appointments in certain areas for certain days. In the beginning, we just kind of ran wild, and it ate us up with pretty big expenses.
Even at cheap fuel, it can get expensive if you're not squared away.
Oh, absolutely. Because it's not just the fuel, it's your drive time, which then cuts into how many appointments you can go to based on drive time.
It almost like in a business, time is somehow equal to money.
Very much so.
And I guess time driving is not time making money.
No. Our vans, we have gotten to the point where we try to average no less than 4 appointments per day per van. And we love when we can do 5. But yes.
But you got to hustle to make it happen.
Is the biggest obstacle. During COVID, when we started this and brought it to Houston, it was kind of awesome. There was no traffic. Everyone stayed home.
Get around easy. Yeah. I remember those days.
From Katy to the Woodlands in 40 minutes at 4:00 in the afternoon.
You can't do that now. Just for those of you who are not from the Houston area.
Yeah. No, that's even with a very fast car, it's not going to happen at 4:30 in the afternoon.
Oh. Welcome to the I-10 parking lot.
Right. For sure.
Or the Beltway 8 parking lot, or the 45 parking lot, or the 290 parking lot.
Or welcome to state troopers everywhere.
Well, especially this week. William, let's talk about what's going on this week in Houston.
Wow. We have the pleasure of hosting, I believe, the last Texas 2K.
Why is this going to be the last one?
I was told Baytown Motor Speedway is being sold, and this is be the last one. I could be incorrect, but if it is not, and I'm incorrect, I apologize. But I will say Texas 2K hasn't been able to host for 2 years because of COVID.
Oh.
So not only do we have a long break since the last time Texas 2K performed, there's a possibility that it may not run in the Houston area after this year.
Now, I'm not a big... as a shop owner and a high-performance driving instructor myself, I'm all about taking your car to the track if you want to drive fast. And when TX2K comes to town, there's a large number of people who, let's just say that rule is not so important to them. And as a result, law enforcement comes out in droves for this week.
Well, and everyone needs to be really careful with that because there's a Texas law. If you are caught drag racing, they will confiscate your vehicle. Whether you owe money on it or not, they take it. So everyone needs to be extremely careful during these times and keep it on the track.
Talk to me about confiscation.
Ooh.
Does that mean they just put it in a tow yard and you pay to get it out?
No, they pretty much put it in that yard and then it goes to auction and then somebody gets it for a really cheap price and you never see it again.
So it's outright taken from your possession, from your ownership.
Yes. And it is auctioned just like a government seizure, bank seizure, and it is auctioned off to the highest bidder. And so everyone needs to be really careful with that.
And for those of you who are not familiar with TX2K, this event brings some of the biggest horsepower cars, street legal cars from around the country to see who's got the biggest, fastest, baddest thing in a rolling straight line anywhere in the country. And very often, these customers will spend $200,000 to $500,000 or more on their cars to make them so. The big money cars this year are burning 3,000 horsepower.
Yes.
In a street legal car.
Yeah, underground racing, I think, is delivering about 3,500 horsepower.
I saw the number. They said 3,500 plus.
Yes.
Kevin doesn't like to give exact numbers.
Well, they have an impressive inventory of high horsepower Lambos.
Well, I'm a customer myself, so I'm well aware.
Yeah.
Now, myself, I have an underground racing Stage R Gallardo 6-speed manual, but Stage R, there's now gone on to Stage 2R, 3R, and then, of course, once he goes past the present number in horsepower output, it goes into the X level, and that's his own experimental car. So that means if they're coming to TX2K with a 3,500 plus horsepower car, that means they're working on a next stage, more powerful car as we speak.
And that's unbelievable amount of horsepower.
In a street legal car. Crank it up and drive it. 3,000 horsepower.
Yeah.
And a number of these drivers aren't particularly qualified to handle said horsepower.
Yes, I would have to agree. But keeping it on the track limits their exposure to
danger.
Right.
Yes, please always take it to the track, guys. Always take it to the track. And of course, if I'm in jail tomorrow for racing on the street tonight, well, then you know that I was a hypocrite. But Liam, let's talk about you for a second. Let's talk about your history. What brought you into the mobile automotive tire business? I mean, what did you do before you got into that industry, aspect of the industry?
I'll try to give you the Cliff Note version, but I am an ASE certified mechanic. Started my young years twisting wrenches and found out that I had the gift of gab and decided that the cars didn't really like talking back to me. So I went into the management side of it and became a service advisor, service and parts director. I've worked for, I think one of the best places I was at in the car industry. Do you remember the car line Saturn?
Oh, yeah.
Weird cars, great customers, but the customer service, their ethics and their customer service is bar none probably the best in the industry. It's sad that they were shut down in 2008 when General Motors went through their hard times.
Well, when they came about, I was at the University of Alabama, and Saturn employed a couple of business professors from the University of Alabama to help them put together their just-in-time inventory model practiced after the Japanese. And the plant was just a few hours up the road in Tennessee.
Spring Hill, yeah.
And it was a big deal in Tuscaloosa at the time, the people who would get to work at Saturn. And for those of you who were around back in the day, Saturn, I would say, was kind of like the Tesla of the day.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it was, body side panels were dent resistant because they were polymer.
Mm-hmm.
And
it was a pretty high-tech car.
Absolutely. For a reasonable price.
And the customers were devoted.
Loyal as loyal can get.
Yeah.
And I think that's what really drove me to have a passion for customer service, help people. The automotive industry, as technology grows, you find that the clients just drive these vehicles and maybe don't know as much about them. But then in that car line, we did a lot of car care clinics, and we were able to do a lot of show and tell and show them where their spare tire was, how to change a spare tire, and educate them on their vehicles, which a lot of dealerships and a lot of manufacturers have gone away from.
They don't do that at all anymore.
Right.
If you have a problem with your car, please call this 1-800 number. A tow truck will come to your facility, and your car will go away, and we'll Uber you home from work.
Right.
We'll call you when it's done.
And we hope we have enough loaner cars if we promise to when we sold it to you.
Right. Exactly. And away from that, for me, I deal a lot with Porsche, Mercedes, BMW, and what I love about what they've done is instead of, I wish they did, like you're talking about, those technical sessions for their customers. Usually you have to be a member of a car club for that brand to have those technical sessions. Because when you buy a new Porsche or BMW or AMG, the big thing you get is typically a track day.
Right.
With an instructor.
Oh, yeah. Driving experience, for sure.
Driving experience for the car, which the cars being so high performance like they are today, customers are simply not trained, and you have to be trained to be able to make use of these cars for what they can do.
Absolutely. And I think, so leaving Saturn, went to Cadillac for many, many years, and then landed me at Porsche. And I'm glad you brought that up, because Porsche has my heart. Those cars are amazing. They're amazingly expensive, but there's a reason for it, because their technology is...
Build quality.
Yeah.
Reliability.
It's the only car, because we do a lot of race cars, a lot of high-end exotic cars. It's the only car that I've ever seen. I've had the pleasure, not with your experience, but I've had the pleasure of tracking a beautiful Porsche on a track. And you can just drive it to the very top limits and then literally let it cool down. And it's about the only vehicle in the parking lot that you drive home at the end.
Yeah, you can do session after session. My own experience in my own GT3, we've had Alec Goodell on the podcast. He was my first guest.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And his Texas Supercar Academy is next week. And I did his first couple of events there. And I drove from the Conroe down to MSR Houston in my GT3, did 4 sessions with the group, turned around and drove all the way back to Conroe, and I was just over a half tank.
It's amazing. Yeah, and scrubbed your tires in perfectly for the next...
Barely scrubbed the tires. I had 90% tread and 90% brake pads left.
Yeah.
This is a car, you could do that to it all day long, and she didn't care.
Yeah. And, Porsche, just because when you get to experience that type of quality... Porsche has an incredible clientele base. That's probably my largest, because I work there, and then have continued education with Porsche. That's probably my largest clientele base in the exotic car line, because, and what I enjoy is because we bring the tire shop to the clients and change their tires. Mm-hmm. I would say probably 90+% of my Porsche clients will be, they want to hang with me. They want to experience the touchless tire changer. It's a personalized installation.
Very much so. When people come to my shop in Conroe, can I sit down and can I watch you guys do an alignment? I'm like, sure, it's kind of boring, but whatever. Just because on the one hand, I don't want to, because I have this really expensive shopkeeper's policy that requires customers to stay out of the shop. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I'm proud of the work we do. Yeah. And I'm very transparent about it. And my customers who actually want to be in the shop, they know how to behave.
Absolutely.
They know not to grab equipment or tools or mess around.
Not to go under the rack while it's in the air.
And they love to watch those numbers come around. And when they see the whole thing come green and the numbers match, they share in the excitement of getting that job done right.
Yeah.
And it's a joy for me as a business owner as well.
And I think that leads me to where I am is this personalized installation, bringing the tire shop to people. I'm big into high customer service. I want to make sure everyone can give us a 5-star review. If we make mistakes, because we are human, they can happen. We're going to 100% take care of it. But we hope that it doesn't. But because the amount of money spent, especially on tires today,
it hurts me how much we have to spend on tires.
Working in a dealership, saying, okay, we're going to put a set of tires in your vehicle, go ahead and have a seat in the waiting room. To me, that wasn't good quality service.
Have some bad coffee and watch public television.
Or you have somebody that has some really fine custom wheels, forged, made for his vehicle, and he's very nervous on who's going to change the tires. I encourage it. We have a practice where we saran wrap the top of the wheel, and our machine is so delicate, I can put the tire on and the saran wrap stays in the same spot. and that to me gives them peace and comfort.
Oh, yeah.
That instead of sitting at the fishbowl window watching, shop activity, and that's where I am today, and I'm loving it. And
well, and you can appreciate probably as much as I can. People ask me, Frank, what do you do with mistakes? And I say, well, I usually fix everybody else's, because nothing makes me cringe more for my customers. Because my customers are in Porsches, they're in Ferraris, they're in Lamborghinis, they're in AMGs. And so when they call me up saying, hey, Frank, I took my car down to discount and I don't know if they did a good job. Would you mind looking at it for me? And my internal response is, why the hell didn't you just come here in the first place?
Right. For sure.
Well, they had a tire on sale that I wanted. Now they stripped out 3 of your lugs.
Yeah.
Or they torqued the snot out of it. Or look at this, 2 lugs are missing when you pulled in. That's my favorite.
I shake my head every day because one of my absolute pet peeves is when you take off a beautiful wheel, change the tire, and you look on the inside of the rim, and there's all that old double-sided tape that everyone's just too lazy. I mean, thank goodness they pulled the old weights off, but then they leave all the debris. Well, we clean the entire wheel on every install.
Well, I have to because when I go to balance it, invariably my weights go where the old, somewhere near.
You took the words out of my mouth.
And I'm like, well, I just like, what are you going to do? Frank, why are you pulling the wheel off the machine? I've got some cleaning to do. That's going to be a while. Yeah, it will.
If you have a precision wheel and you're buying a precision tire like Pirelli P0 or a Michelin Cup 2, 90% of the time that weight's going to go in the same general area where it came off. So you might as well clean it while you got it. Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, even if the weight didn't go there, you still got that.
And it cracks me up when they just kind of move the weight to an inner location. And then you get the phone call of, hey, I had my tires balanced and I hear a clicking noise. And then someone's beautiful caliper has been scratched because of laziness. So that doesn't happen with us. And that's one of my things.
Well, it's a frustration for me because when I pull that wheel off and it's already been damaged, now I've got to explain to the customer it wasn't me.
Right. Well, there's usually a story told inside the wheel, like some scuffing inside the rim.
The wheels and the tires, they don't lie. They tell you the story.
They will.
And if you know how to translate it, you'll get the truth.
Yeah. And so I get it. And that's why we do things. And that's why one of our other punchlines is experience the mobile difference.
That's really good.
I like that.
Experience the mobile difference.
Yep.
Okay, I'm just jealous now because that's that's really good. Oh my God.
I have to thank my wife for that.
Really?
Yes. Been married 27 years. She hooked me up with that one.
Wow.
Got to experience the mobile difference.
That's really good. I'm jealous. That's marketing genius all by itself.
So we're excited. We're 2 years into it, and we help fellow shops, as in Frank's occasionally. He has 2 locations, and so one location.
And the Tomball location does not have an alignment rack in tire machines, and so I need exactly William Wightman's experience and expertise to match mine.
Yeah.
And the spaces, as much as we'd love to offer the tire service, we're space limited. And it's not so much we need the space to be able to do the job, but people don't appreciate how much space used tires take up.
Amen.
And the tire disposal place won't come to me until I've stacked 50 of them.
It's 100 plus now.
Let me tell you how much space 100 dead tires take in your shop.
Yeah.
And your landlord doesn't want you storing them outside.
Probably pretty close to 2,000 square foot and you don't leave them outside because every wasp,
every critter,
rattlesnake on the planet is coming. Spiders,
snakes. I mean, you would not, birds, predators. I've never realized predators could live in tires.
The spiders are the worst.
Yeah, those ones will kill you. Yeah. I don't know if you're familiar with Texas, for our non-Texas viewers, but we have this deadly little creature called the
brown recluse.
The brown recluse spider.
Or even the black widow. We got them both.
Lots of black widows and snakes. All the poisonous snakes are here.
Yeah.
All of them. Sure. And some of them aren't native. They're escaped They're simply escaped pets, and they're poisonous ones get loose, and it's fun to find one of those exotics in your tire pile.
Yep.
I've seen that before too, and they don't put that in the brochures for your new business.
No, they don't. It's we recycle everything through a company locally. They make it into playground mulch and what's that?
I just now read that.
And 35. Yep. See,
they're going to take down the racetrack.
Yes, sir. That's why this Texas 2K is such an emotional week for us this week, because it will be the last in Houston, at least at Houston Raceway Park.
Well, for those of you who are not as familiar with the motorsports industry, one of the most difficult things in the world to build is a racetrack of any kind. You typically have to start by building it out in the middle of nowhere where nobody cares. And then the people move out to the area around your track where they can spend all day complaining about the noise of your track, to where you take your track down.
Well, my understanding is their number one issue is there's a concrete manufacturing area just next to it.
Uh-huh.
So all the dust and debris when they're making concrete and cement products blows onto the track. It creates additional damage, additional liabilities.
Traction issues.
Yeah.
We got a lot of horsepower with traction issues.
And then COVID didn't help Houston Raceway.
God bless, we got to go build a racetrack somewhere else now.
We do.
For those of you who want to build a racetrack, give me a call.
Needs to be done, because it definitely doesn't need to come back to the street.
No. Oh, that's just it. The track keeps these kids from killing themselves.
And others.
Yes. The fellow last year with the yellow Camaro who pulled that stunt.
17 years old.
Mommy and Daddy decided he needed a big horsepower Camaro for his first car.
Wrong place, wrong time. Mistake that changed his life forever.
He's in jail still, isn't he?
He will be for life. He got 3 counts. He got 3 counts of life for doing a burnout in the wrong place, wrong time. Family was exiting the freeway on 290. And
it's an ugly video.
Yes.
And I killed 3, huh?
And injured a bunch, because when he ricocheted off the car, he ran over a bunch.
That's right.
That were standing, watching, videoing,
standing on
encouraging
on the road with their cameras, or as I call it, the cell phone salute.
Yeah. Hey. We both, and I know you are too.
Safety.
We're big car enthusiasts. We love the machines, the art, the history, right? And everyone just needs to realize that there's a time and a place for it. And these car shows and car meets, they're essential for good communication, networking.
Because ultimately people want to see the cars. Because if you can only get a glance of it at 100 yards away going 75 miles an hour, that's not getting to see the car.
Absolutely.
And these dealerships have become wary of letting kids with cameras come into the showroom and hanging out all day. So the only opportunity most people have to ever see these cars in person would be at a car show.
Well, and car people genuinely are probably some of the most genuine people that I know.
I would agree. We're excited about what we do, and we're happy to share it.
Yep, for sure. And that's kind of fits in with what we do. As an independent, I'm also an independent. We get to share in that, learn from others, with networking through that. And that's
what I'm doing with this podcast is, right. Bring in my friends from the industry to let people know what's out there, because one of the things that got me so encouraged to open my own shop was through a number of personal car projects over the years. And in my search for various specialties, from interior to paint and body, carbon fiber, wheels, tires, et cetera, custom fabricated parts that can only be done in a machine shop, a couple of quality welders, and you don't want just a welder, you don't want just a machine shop, you want the best one.
Yep.
And that's how I developed my network of all these specialists in Houston. And it's not that it's some top secret that I have, but my typical customer doesn't have time or doesn't have the years dealing with the good and bad ones back and forth in order to find the good shop.
Well, your knowledge and experience brings value to what you offer. And, there's not a lot of people that are driven for perfection. And so, and that's what they're buying. They're buying your experience. They're buying your network of professionals that you've glued
Cultivated,
together.
yeah,
Right,
cultivated over the years, yeah.
And so that's kind of what, my hope and goal is. I won't ever have an inexperienced installer in my vans. It's myself. I have 2 technicians, but they're very experienced. They're ASE certified, and it's not just going to be an average Joe.
No,
and
there's no average Joes in this.
Being mobile, we only have what we have in our vans. So not having someone educated could be a nightmare.
You can't afford that, especially the cars you're typically, because the customer who's calling you is not looking for a cheap tire on his 15-year-old Corolla.
Correct.
If he's calling you to come out to his house and do his install, he's going to want that Michelin 4S on his 20-inch, 12-inch wide GT3.
Correct.
And as you well know, so many of these modern cars, or these supercars as they call them, center lock wheels.
I'm the only one that does center lock. It is a 2-man job because it has to be torqued in the air. And, a lot of people don't understand the type of clamping pressure.
Well, I do the center lock wheels myself, and having a car with center locks, as cool as it is to look at, I absolutely despise having to change a wheel on my car because it's a 2-man job.
Yep.
And it has to be elevated. How do you do that without the equipment?
So, I mean,
I do it on an alignment rack that costs $60,000. That is not in your van.
Yeah. So, I had to get creative. I have race ramps. Where a client with a vehicle that is, 2.5 inches off the ground, because the jack points are 1.5 feet under the vehicle.
And you can't get there when it's on the ground.
Correct. So we have the client pull onto the race ramps. And once it's on the race ramps, we're able to get to the jack point, lift it, elevate it, and do what we need to do, changing tires. And we're able to torque it. And someone holding the steering wheel for the fronts and the rears, just basic brake. But yeah, so we do Porsche center locks. We do Lamborghini center locks. Haven't had a request for Ferrari yet, but
well, the good news, at least the Ferrari tool is in their car as well.
Correct.
The Pistas have them, thank goodness.
Well, the one thing that I do like is, at least with Porsche and Lamborghini, I have my own. I don't like getting the clients dirty.
I have mine too, yeah.
Yeah, and so that's another, big selling point for me, is because of my background in education, and then I have my own equipment. It's the customer service thing, and it's amazing how many people recognize, and that's what I love about it. That's why I do it every day, is the fact that people really appreciate not using their center lock tool on their very expensive, limited production vehicle.
Because part of the resale value of that vehicle is the fact that nothing's been used or opened.
Correct. So, but no, it's been fun, and we just look for the future, and just growth is awesome. Tire inventories could get a little bit better, and pricing can come back to a normal range. But yeah,
and tires aren't the only thing. We're having a conversation with a friend of mine the other day. He said, "Hey, have you tried to buy a refrigerant lately?"
Refrigerant, car parts.
Oh yeah, car parts. And that's been a problem since COVID first started. But boy, when it first happened, and I was getting requests for tires, and I'm going into my website there, and oh wow, they're out of P0s. They're out of 4Ss.
Cup 2s.
Yeah.
Cup 2Rs.
Okay, I've got to start getting creative here.
Right.
So started learning all about the Yokohamas and the Falcons, and the Toyos, sure. Okay, what's good here? I've got to do some research and get down to the budget realm of the SCCA and NASA guys. And as a result, I've become quite a fan of the Falcon tire lately.
It is actually, it works very well with the 19-inch German car vehicles. And
I have one of those.
It's difficult finding in the 21. So the GT3 RS, the rear 21 inch, was a 325, 30, 21. It's a very hard tire to size. But I think times are improving. Nanking's starting to get into the ball game with their new.
Haven't heard that name in a long time.
They've got a pretty impressive new race tire that.
Nanking, get out of here!
Yes,
I'm like excited now.
I believe it's the AR1.
Okay, the Nanking AR1.
And right now, in the U.S., you can only get it from Phil's track in New York.
Thanks, Phil.
I'm trying to become a local dealer, but until I have a brick and mortar store, Nanking frowns on the mobile concept.
We may have to talk about that. Maybe your world can get involved with you in that aspect of it and help you out.
I think that's a conversation for sure.
Man, I always learn something new when I get to talk to you and get all excited again. Good stuff.
Yeah, for sure. No, it's another thing that I wanted to bring up is not to change the tune on track cars, but the number one I think where we really excel is the fact that 35% of vehicles today that are sold don't have spare tires. Did you know there's like this inflator kit and green goo?
Only 35%?
It's probably more, but I'm going off a report that I saw probably a year ago.
Well, no, I mean, I know on the exotic side, nobody has a spare anymore. I mean,
even a Space Saver donut. It's just unheard of.
Well, yeah. I mean, first of all, I think one of the evolutions of the tire industry that people don't talk about is how much safer a tire is today than it was 30, 40 years ago. Mm-hmm. Back in the early days of the tire, the early days, let's go back to the early days of the automotive industry. Tires were basically like really large bicycle tires or motorcycle tires.
Absolutely.
They had an outer tire and then they had an inner tube.
Right.
And tubes were a common thing up until when? 70s?
I was going to say late 50s, 60s.
With the invention of the radial tire. Mm-hmm. So once they had the radial tire squared away, or really the high quality bias ply tires.
Correct.
Was when they started creating tires that didn't really need an inner tube. But it wasn't until the steel belted radial that you could have a failure on a tire at speed that wasn't a blowout.
Correct.
High-speed blowouts are practically a thing of the past with modern tire technology.
For sure.
I mean, you run over a nail at 100 miles an hour in your Michelin 4S's. You're not going to have a catastrophic tire failure.
As long as you pull over in a reasonable amount of time.
Well, of course. Yeah,
but it won't be a true pop.
No. You will have to run that tire down to nothing and grind it into the ground.
Correct.
And even then, it won't just explode and blow your wheel off and throw you into a ditch and you die. Those days are long gone.
For sure.
Those are things we saw in the movies in the 70s.
Absolutely.
And even then, those 70s movies were about the movies about cars in the 50s. A long time ago, that was a real issue. And then very often, I mean, goodness, I've driven cars, my own cars, where I've had as many as 4 plugs in the same tire because I can just repair it and keep driving.
Hopefully you never brought that one to the track.
No, of course not. I would never certify a car for track use with a number of plugs in the tire. That would not be safe.
No, it wouldn't.
But as far as a daily driver that I bang around in.
Sure. Absolutely.
Just because plug it or patch it, it'll be fine. It'll hold air. I'm not worried about it just exploding and coming off the rim. And of course, in that scenario, if that technology has changed to where a spare tire is no longer a necessity, or at least a full size spare, and like you said, a bottle of green goo and a little battery powered air compressor.
Yep.
5 minutes, I'm on down the road.
Or you call the 1-800, I'll pick you up in a couple hours, tow truck guy to come rescue you, to take you to a tire shop. Or you just call us and we just bring the tire to your house and install it.
I was going to say, if you're local, just call the Mobile Difference.
It'll save you time and money. Well, time is money.
Absolutely. And in business, well, and for people who are successful enough to buy a Porsche, a Ferrari, or Lamborghini, these are not time wasters themselves.
To know that your baby is going to be dragged onto a flatbed and you hope that they have race ramps or something so it doesn't scrape the front end, makes most cringe.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Absolutely. seeing how quickly time's burning and your own schedule, we're already at 10 after 3. I probably shouldn't even say that on a podcast, should I? I'm not supposed to give a sense of time or issue or anything.
No, not if there's good material.
Yeah, and I'm trying to be cognizant of your own time because it's money.
I appreciate that.
I'm in trouble. How do I get hold of William Wightman at the Mobile Difference?
So you can either reach us at 832-510-7177, or you can go onto our website, themobiledifference.com.
You got the name?
Yes.
Seriously? It was there? It was available?
Yes, sir.
Power play. All right. Who did you assassinate to make that happen?
Actually, I was blessed to snatch it a while back before mobile accelerated into what it is today.
Wow.
And so, yeah, I've already had some pretty nice little offers, but I'm loving what I'm doing. And it's going to be more than just tires and brakes. So we do brakes, but only in a fleet application. We have big contracts with large delivery companies like Amazon, FedEx, UPS.
Because the last time you and I talked, you were working that Amazon customer situation. How has that been going for you? Because I know it was overwhelming at one point.
It's still overwhelming. They have more vehicles than you can imagine, and they use 90% of them 99% of the time. And so for them, why we're convenient, I mean, we do pool companies, pest control, and what allows us to have a true effect to a company like that is, to them, when they need a tire, they drop it off the shop. It takes 2 employees to drive it there, leave it, and then it's there for a whole day for just 2, 3, 4 tires. And then they have to send 2 employees to go get it, drive it back. So you're talking downtime. If they are really busy during peak season, holidays, they might have to rent a van to replace the one that's in the shop.
Only for a day.
And all that expense when they could just call us and we come before or after hours. So we might have to do an install from 8 p.m. to, let's say, 7 a.m. And we install tires on location and they have no downtime. And then I have to rent a vehicle. And as many tires as they go through, because their average is about 13,000 miles for an entire set. It's quite.
They're only getting 13,000 miles out of a set of tires.
You know, I heard a joke from one of the contractors that I work with. It's not how many homes that they get to go to. It's how many homes that they get to skip. And I thought about that and I said, well,
so it's that prevalent because they use brakes all the time. They're always accelerating or stopping.
Tire, brake, go, stop, go, stop, go, stop. And you know, the other thing is when they call me for a flat, almost 90% of the time, it's on the passenger side because you're riding the curb. You're going from house to house to house to house. So almost every time there's a nail or screw, it's in the passenger side tires. And
90%.
I had a driver tell me that in one of the largest neighborhoods, Imperial Oaks. Imperial Oaks.
Oh, Imperial Oaks.
Just north in the Spring Woodlands area. It's a very large neighborhood.
Yes, it is.
He said he could only count on one hand the amount of homes that he could not stop at
on a daily
because he stopped at every single house to deliver packages.
So his whole day is just that one neighborhood.
Correct.
Because that place is huge.
Absolutely. But this
so you've had to go that neighborhood several times to rescue a van, I bet.
We do. And we have an express for people that own Transits, Sprinters.
So you have a van dedicated to that type of vehicle.
I have a pickup truck dedicated to rescues for those type of vehicles that have pre-mounted and balanced tires ready to rock. And we're on site within just a few minutes or maybe.
So you don't even have to change the tires. You're just switching the whole wheel assembly out.
Absolutely. Because
he's on the road and you're just going to change the tire and take it back to the company.
So a delivery company, time is money.
Yeah.
And so when their driver's sitting there and the packages aren't being delivered.
Tick tock, tick tock.
Correct. And so we've come up with the opportunity to come out there with a pickup. I have a loaner or donor unit that I install on their vehicle and it matches the specs to the T.
Yeah.
And then we talk about, is that tire repairable?
Yeah.
Replaced. And then we service it or replace it and then reinstall it when we're on location that day or the following day.
But he gets to keep working. You knock out the tire, and
Correct. They don't have to send a rescue truck to transfer all the boxes out of one unit to the other unit. You get 2 people on the clock. Payroll.
You are the hero of the day there.
I like to think that we're changing the way that tires are installed.
That's a brilliant concept. I'm jealous I didn't think of it.
Well, we appreciate your support, and we are just trying to help everybody we can.
Well, there's no shortage of need, that's for sure.
Yes. Well, I'm sure you know the statistics of tire replacements per year. I think it's actually 70% of America will buy at least one tire every year, if not
more. Yeah.
More. Especially after our freeze, 2 years ago, that created all these home rebuilds, remodels.
Nails everywhere.
This last 2 years since that freeze, I've never seen so many nails, debris. And also, you think about because we're in Houston, and there's not a lot of sewers. Very little. It's in a neighborhood for water control, but all of our freeways just have runoff. So the debris just sits there. And so definitely got to be careful.
So in Houston, a heavy freeze can put nails in your tires for 2 years after, or even longer.
Depending on the rebuilding and the construction. But I mean, you look at the growth of Houston.
It's been tremendous in the last few years.
I've met a few California people moving here.
That's been a topic across a number of industries.
Thank you, Tesla.
Right?
Elon. He can stay in Austin now. Cough. I have a lot of Tesla customers. Love them to death. They're amazing cars. And they wear through tires very fast. So they're becoming up to my most favorite.
Right? Yeah, people, it's funny, within the automotive industry, traditionalists, we make fun of people who drive electric cars, whatever. But there's no denying the fact that the performance of an electric car, a straight line acceleration, is the fastest car in the world.
Absolutely.
Production car straight line, hands down, easily.
Yes, for sure.
And so that has an impact on tire wear.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're doing a lot of tire replacements on Teslas, that tells you what the customers are doing with their Teslas.
I think my average, especially, because you're not getting oil changes. So do they get their tires rotated? Are they rotatable, depending on if they're a staggered fit, a little bit bigger in the front, smaller in the back?
Can't stagger a plaid. Send it.
And so I've had a few clients at 6,500 miles throwing a set of tires, but they were enjoying it. Wow. It's a fast vehicle.
I mean, that's like track day wear.
That Plaid is it's a mean machine.
It is. And not lightweight either.
No.
It's a lot of power for something that's not lightweight.
Yeah. It just knows how to squat and go. I could use other terms, but we are.
I'm not going to call us family friendly because, well, this is the car industry.
Good point.
But you know what's so funny? Between Alec and Eric and Tino and yourself, my friends are by nature very professional people because we're not just car guys. We're working in the high end of the car industry, and we try to be more professional than your typical wrench or jock or...
It slips every once in a while, but for the most part, I mean...
Well, in the previous podcast, we had a Christian coffee shop owner.
Oh, nice.
So, wonderful gentleman. I'll probably have him on here. It turns out he's a pretty hardcore car guy. He loves what we're talking about. But it was funny how I laugh at Anthony being a restaurant owner and his time in the kitchen. He's not afraid to throw a cuss word or two.
Oh, yeah. No, they're borderline sailors. I mean...
That's true.
I have some family members that are cooks, and it's like when the heat gets hot, you're starting to feel claustrophobic. It's just like there's just only one way to go. It just comes out. It's amazing where everything's turning and going. Like you were saying, technology in tires probably. One of the things that drives me nuts the most is people either just wear out tires or I did a 2005 Ford GT, and this was 3 months ago. Still had 2003 DOT dates on the tires. But if it didn't have the technology it had today, would it even hold air?
No.
Not in Texas. With this sun, this heat.
This thing bakes rubber off a belt like there's no tomorrow.
But the technology and advancement and everything, I mean, and they probably had about 80% tread because I think he only hit about 3,200 miles on it. But without the type of technology,
Well, it's funny you say that. People still reference Paul Walker's death in the Carrera GT.
One of my favorite movies. I love those movies. But go ahead. Sorry.
No. Hey, I'm a Paul Walker fan. I may not be a big fan of the Fast and Furious franchise, but I'm a fan of Paul Walker for his contribution to the automotive industry.
Sure, absolutely.
And to the car culture of this country. A wonderful impact and wonderful representative of the car industry, the car culture, the car people. He is one of our favorite car people for how he represented us as a whole.
For accessorizing, for customizing, absolutely.
And a high performance driver enthusiast in his own right. He's a skilled driver. He was. Yeah. And his death in our favorite brand of car, and how many times I listen to people malign Porsche or how much they malign the Carrera GT. And I grit my teeth because I actually have some insight on the incident.
Really?
A gentleman who used to work for me, Jeff Lepper, announcer for the Pirelli World Challenge. He was on TV for several years himself. His father is one of the most experienced accident investigators in the country. He was tasked with investigating that incident.
Really? And?
That Carrera GT, they made that car up until about 2000.
Yep.
Okay. Mm-hmm. That car had its original set of tires on.
So
send it.
15, 16 years old? Because it's been probably, 5 or 6 years?
About 5 years since it went down. But it had the original set of tires on it. Everybody wants to talk about, well, that driver wasn't that good, or he knew the Carrera GT. He was on a 15-year-old set of tires, and Paul was encouraging me, come and get on it.
That not knowing.
No.
That
the owner said, get on it. Someone get on it.
Yeah.
Now we're both dead.
Yeah. It's,
tires.
It's an issue. And I know no one wants to pay the expense. And that kind of pushed me to where I want to give better, higher quality customer service. Because when you pay for a car like that, you're going to probably pay $2,500, $2,600, whether you buy them from me, from discount, if you can get them. It doesn't matter.
Wholesale, they're $2,500.
You deserve a custom install. You don't deserve, hey, can you sit over?
That is not a car that goes to discount.
No.
I would hunt down the owner if he did that. How dare you?
Yeah. No, for sure. But those type of, that amount of money spent deserves a higher quality of service. I would say in most cases, especially on that type of vehicle, I would probably recommend it to go to the dealer, only because the lift points on that vehicle
are very specific.
Yes.
We had one in our shop one time. We had to do an alternator change on it. The person who I was working with at the time, he came to me and he said, Frank, he needs the alternator changed in this car. I said, okay. He said, come take a look at it. So he showed me where it was. And I was like, how are we supposed to get that alternator out of there?
Pulling the engine out.
You're supposed to separate the rear sub from the tub, i.e. split the car in half to change the alternator, which made it a $5,000 labor bill to change the $1,200 alternator.
And every time you remove a part from that, it has to go into a padded bag. So
a lot of single-use bolts in that application as well.
Oh, and availability.
And they never go on sale.
Matter of fact, we have the limited markup fee because they only made a couple hundred of those vehicles max in its entire history.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it's DOT dates.
What does your shopkeeper's policy look like for what you do?
It's pretty big.
People don't talk about that as a shops. Like typical shop owner's policy Shopkeeper's policy is typically $1 million. I know that to work on the cars I work on, I have to carry a larger policy than that. And they don't put that in the brochures either.
No, and we carry about a $2.5 million binder because we work for a lot of Highline car dealerships, and we have to be covered and insured. And yes, it's more than just a very expensive house note.
It's typically 25 to 30 grand a year just the premium if you have good credit.
Yeah. No, it's to play the game, to do it right, you have to be protected because we talked about it earlier. Being human, it can happen. But no, you're absolutely right. The liability, garage keeper, because I still have to have it.
And the thing is, all people see is, oh, well, you had money and you're making money. You got this big successful business. You know, you don't know my struggle.
It's more than just rent. You know, it's more than just.
Well, my point is to the people who make statements like that, I challenge them to know your struggle.
Oh, yeah. No, and I appreciate that because, you know, tires are one of those things that everyone wants to go cheaper on. Let's make a deal. Let's try to, who's got the best coupon, who can do it the cheapest. And, you know, I mean, you get what you pay for in most, probably 99% of the tire game is you want a cheap tire, you're going to get, it's going to wear out quickly. It could not last long. And
well, I'll be the first to admit, with me and my one technician, every now and then I'm super busy and I've got a rash of business that goes on for months, and I'll hire a second technician, or I'll bring on that I know who's available at the time to help out. I will turn business away if they start doing that. They start requesting a low price tire just because it's low price or not wanting a quality tire. I'll turn that customer away because I don't want the liability of a low grade tire on a high performance car.
Absolutely.
Because you know when that tire fails under that load.
Yep. You put it on there.
Their lawyer's going to call me.
Yep. And say, why did you put that tire on that type of performance vehicle?
And when this lawsuit comes, I have to call my insurance company. They're going to ask some very specific questions.
Yeah. It's, we're not the cheapest, but we're going to get the job done right. And it's going to be at the highest quality possible.
Well, my answer to that was, why would you want the cheapest guy working on your Porsche or your Ferrari or your Lamborghini?
Yeah. Or anything with above average horsepower.
Yeah. And given the importance of tires, they're not of minor consequence.
It would be the one thing that holds you to
it's kind of the most important part of the car. It don't drive without it.
Right. And it doesn't stop well with anything cheap on it.
But I want more power.
Right.
But I don't want a better tire.
I want to go fast, but I forgot about having to stop.
Or you know, well, just put rubber on it. I need to make more power. I need that tire budget to go towards horsepower.
Yeah. No, it's you know, to me, it's the nature of tires. And you know, of course, there's a tire store on every corner, and becomes a price war. So it's like this guy undercuts this guy, and because I'm mobile, I mean, yes, I am more expensive. But I'm coming to you.
Yeah.
I'm coming to you. I'm going to your house. You know, I love when some of my contractors are working and they're like, hey, I'm going to be at this location. Wait a minute. Can you actually do the install while I'm in the office? I mean, I get some of my Exxon guys that'll call me and be like, hey, I can park in the parking garage. I'm like, well, here's the problem. My van's too tall. I can't get in there. Yeah. But I know exactly where I can park. And they're just steadily working. They prepay for the tires and the installation. I take before and after pictures. The install's done. They never skipped a beat. And that's why it's super, super convenient.
Well, it's funny you talk about them on every corner because I live on 1488 or near 1488.
Not everybody, of course.
Well, there's an NTB down there. And the guy who manages that place is a nice fellow, but talking to him, he's short staffed and he's working 16-hour days, wore himself out. And literally in the last month, both a Discount and a Tire Link are literally across the street and one block down, and the Tire Link and the Discount are being built at the same time, literally across the street from each other.
Yes, they are.
And I just stood there and looked like, those two obviously aren't talking to one another.
Correct.
And you know the guy who's going forward with the construction on the Tire Link and Discount Tires looking at this.
Well, I will tell you. So I've met Billy Link. He's a very good individual. He runs a really professional, high customer service facility. But yeah, you got to think, why are you so close? I mean, unless it's like, hey,
right
I'll get some
across the
carryover.
street.
Maybe I'll get some carryover. Maybe they'll get some carryover.
I just laughed when I saw it going like, wow. I know if I was a shop owner watching that happen, I'd be so unhappy.
But I will say that, Billy has really made his niche in the big truck market, like big diesel trucks. I mean, I believe he's a sponsor of Houston Diesels.
Okay.
In our van, we can do up to like a 28-inch rim and a 40-inch mud tire. But those guys, they do the big stuff. 30-inch wheels.
Yeah, those are well, those are 350, 400-pound wheel and tire combo.
Yeah, it takes multiple people to pick them up.
I did plug the wheel one time, the 18-inch wheel with a I think it's a 31-inch tire on my Ram Rebel 1500, and I pulled every muscle in my forearm because both my lifts in my shop had cars on them. So I'll just jack this up real quick and knock it out. So it's easy to jack up and pull off and plug the tire.
Mm-hmm.
Getting it back on, I mean, I did it after hours. No one was there to help me.
Right. No, and
it's a 75-pound combo, wheel tire combo. And I'm used to dealing with 20-pound wheel tire combos.
Brother, let me tell you, some of these 30-inch, 35-inch, 37, 40s, especially if they're 10, 12 ply with a Kevlar backing like Goodyear, they're super heavy. Yeah. So we use, we just sit down and then basically you have to use your legs, or you literally have somebody jacking it up.
Jacking the wheel so up to get it.
The lugs you can catch the lugs on the way up.
That is
they're just, oh no, we have a jack stand underneath. I absolutely make sure that, but it's, people don't realize, why. I mean, I think there's All Out Sports, Tire Link. Yeah, they're going to be a little bit more expensive, but they can handle the high-end custom big truck tires, and honestly, they can have them because I'm 46 and my back hurts.
Let me tell you, after this last experience, I'm not going to touch any of my truck tires unless there's a younger fellow around to do the job.
Amen. For sure.
God bless. Well, this time has gone really quick. I appreciate you spending time over with me. Wow, a lot over.
No, you're good.
Yeah?
I had a great time, and I appreciate you having me on today.
Well, I want to have you back again because, we kind of glossed over some topics I would have a lot of fun unpacking with you.
For sure. I'd love to be back, and I wish you the best. This is an incredible idea, and I think you're definitely the man for the job with your experience and your history. I mean, you got a lot of track time. You got a lot of experience with higher end cars.
Well, it's funny you say that because one of my friends because when I was first, this idea of the podcast was encouraged to me by some people I respect. And I was very resistant at first because I really don't like the sound of my voice. I don't like the way I look on camera. Yeah, you would think, but it's one of those things where I'm like, there's better qualified people than me. There's more than a few automotive podcasts out there. What's the point? So, with still encouragement to move forward, I said, let me talk to some friends and see what they think. And every one of them said the same thing. Cool. Can I be on it? That was the response everybody had.
Yeah.
And one friend even said, I think it's a lot better idea than opening a shop, Frank.
And
it's a lot easier, that's for sure.
Well, I'll tell you, it takes a lot of education to really get up and talk about their experiences, the connections, the networking.
That's because I'm old.
Right. You said that. I didn't.
I'm very old.
No, I think it's great bringing awareness to specific car lines, especially the higher end car lines. It's definitely needed because right now you've got a very limited market, and in most cases, the manufacturer just absolutely forces you back, and and that's good in some cases.
In some cases,
but the overall I mean, they're still cars.
Well, as I've said many times, if the dealerships got it right every time, there would be no independent shops.
And they wouldn't be as busy as they are.
What he said.
There's a reason why Toyota has the largest service departments on the planet, but they make really good cars.
Good answer, William. Good answer.
Sorry, I'm not a big Toyota fan. But no, I have friends that work for Toyota. They're decent cars, but they have very large service departments with hundreds and hundreds of technicians.
Have you seen the shop at Porsche North Houston?
Yes, sir.
We had Tino on board. He said he has 23 bays, and he's outgrown them. They're looking for a new place.
The thing that I do like about them is
I have 2 bays.
They do the exotic, excuse me, the
Classic.
classic,
Yep.
right? Yeah, thank you.
But they have to, they had to go buy a guy out of his business to do that.
Didn't know that.
Yeah, you have to talk a guy, because before Porsche North, there was no factory support for those internal for those old cars.
Yeah.
So they were only found in independent shops, and so they had to go find a guy and say, "Hey, why don't you have a job just doing that and train our staff?"
Yeah. So then we can push that.
Well, one of the things that Porsche has, to add to our fandom already, a little statistic about Porsche, they have the single highest percentage of cars still on the road that they've ever produced. And they're committed to keeping that number very, very high.
Yeah. But it makes sense. They're incredible.
Well, let's give you an idea the next level where Porsche is. They openly admit, hey, we're going to stop making internal combustion engines, new ones. We're going to go become an all-electric company. But they're so committed to keeping all their previously made internal combustion cars on the road, they've already designed, developed, and ready for delivery their own synthetic fuels to keep their internal combustion engines alive and being used. The synthetic fuel going in their internal combustion engines produces 0 emissions.
Really?
How's that for commitment to your generations past?
It shows that the technology has been there the entire time, and somebody has always been thinking ahead. And once again, it's the only car that, hands down, you can literally put a beating on the track and let the rotors turn back to a normal silver color and not orange, glowing like they're about to melt.
And they'll be just fine.
And you can drive it home.
Yeah. Take it to work on Monday.
Yeah. So I bleed it too, brother. Big Porsche fanatic.
William, thank you so much for coming on today.
Thanks for having me, man. Appreciate it very much.
And we want to thank you guys for taking the time with us today on this podcast, with a wonderful time with William Wightman here at the Mobile Difference. And what's that website again, William?
TheMobileDifference.com.
So jealous. We'll see you guys next time. Thank you again for coming on.